Annyeong, it's Mikey here, and thank you guys so much for all of your support. I really can't believe that we're so close to 5,000, and I really hope that I could build this channel to something even bigger and greater. Of course, I'm gonna need all of you guys' support and help, so please keep subscribing and liking these videos because it really helps this channel be able to grow and be able to get seen by more people. Now today, I want to thank Monsgeek. They actually sent me out their newest M1V5 pre-built board. It's like a retro-themed board from the M1V5 series. So let's go straight into the unboxing, and please make sure to like and subscribe. So starting off with the unboxing of the Monsgeek M1V5. I had the box upside down there for a moment, but thank you again, Monsgeek, for sending me this out because I was really interested. I think Monsgeek in general has very, very affordable, very good DIY kits as well as good pre-made boards. So this is going to be interesting to see this one. Now, they do provide quite a lot of stuff in there, right? So you get these screw-in stabilizers as an extra. You get the switch puller, you get extra switches. You also get a keycap puller, and you get a USB dongle in there, obviously, and you get a coiled cable. So what I find with Monsgeek is that they're like a really good, affordable DIY, as well as like for modding or beginners that want to do like a custom keyboard. Monsgeek really does have a lot of great stuff, which I really do enjoy. So let's take a look at the actual board now, and this is supposed to be their 1980s themed M1V5. Now, as you can see on the top there, so there is a little silicone there in the portion where it's supposed to cover and protect the USB port. That's a nice add-on because, you know, like when you have a board that is where the USB dongle, like where your port is, it's hard to reach sometimes. You can definitely scratch it up, and I've scratched up a lot. This is a quick release board, but kind of seems a little bit tough to put in. We'll have to see, of course, more later on in the teardown, but the theme of this board looks really nice. I think the whole finish of this board is a little bit different. It's not a super nice CNC, so it's not very, very smooth. It's more like a painted on feel, kind of what I had with the Gamma K. And the keycaps itself also kind of feel a little bit like dusty on the way. Has a little bit of a dusty feel, but let's weigh this board before we go into a sound test, and it weighs 1.8 kilos. Now let's go into a teardown. So I removed all the keycaps for you guys so you can just quickly take a look here. So we're going to go in a little bit in depth. So this is supposed to be with the like a PC plate that is flex cut, you know, quotations around the flex cut. And as you can see here, it is going to be the plate mounted stabilizers, and it is coming pre-lubed. So it does come pre-lubed already, and you don't really have to do much, which is really nice. Now I'm trying to focus this in on my camera so you guys can see this, but there's a lot of scratches on this thing. As you can see right there, a ton of scratches, like everywhere. This is a big con for me because you have a white board, and with only about like a week and a half of using it so far for me, you can see that it's been scratching up everywhere. That isn't something nice to see. I mean, if you are someone that just uses it on your desk and leaving it on your desk, that's completely fine. But if you are someone like me,
who is trying to do a lot of testings and moving things around, just keep in mind this is gonna scratch really easily. Now, I'm looking at the thickness of this case. It is quite thick, actually. I was quite surprised of how thick this is. It's like 2.9 millimeters, like 2.5 centimeters, and it is a quite thick of a case. Now, it isn't one of those magnetic plugins like some boards out there. This is actually just everything's cabled in. And on the bottom here, as you can see here, so everything is wired together. We have two batteries that are actually connected together. They're 4,000 milliamp hour batteries, so total 8,000 milliamp hours. And you have this plastic sheet, right? So that's on the bottom. This bottom casing actually is quite interesting though, because it's quite thick and the sides are quite high up, which I was kind of surprised about. Now, this plastic sheet is actually really thick. I was actually quite surprised of how thick that plastic sheet is. Usually when you get those static sheets, it's very, very thin, but no, this one's thick. Now, as I said, the bottom of the case is really high up and it is very thick. And you do get a nice thick foam for the back of the PCB as well. And it's not super, super taped on. So that's like, it rips when you pull it off, which is really nice. As you can see here, it is gasket mounted. So you do have those little nubbins that are going to go on. So it protects and reduces the vibrations. You do get a nice foam in between the plate and the PCB as well. And yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, like, they did a really great job with this. Has a processor on the PCB. And, you know, I want to give you guys a sound test with no foam. So now it's time to do the modding. Now, what am I going to do for modding this board? Because you have so much space in this board, and I find that this board in general already has quite a bit of a dampened sound. I am actually not going to do a tape mod, and I'm going to do something a little bit different. As you see here, right, the sides are quite high. I'm going to remove that bottom foam, and I'm actually just going to try using the car sound dampening. See how that is and see what kind of sound we can get from that. So I'm just going to add the car sound dampening, and then we're going to cut it out, put it all together, and then do a sound test with that. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, of course, after I put all this back in, is actually mod the spacebar. So one thing I noticed with this board, and by the way, this is what I meant. When you're putting it back together, I felt that the latches weren't super easy to put in, and it kind of is a little bit loose. So keep that in mind for yourselves. Now, I'm going to be changing up the spacebar because the spacebar I've noticed for this board was quite a bit on the higher tinging side. Even the backspace too, actually. So one thing I like to do is add car sound dampening, but I don't want to add too much because then it actually mutes the spacebar ridiculously. So, you know, just put enough in there that it can fill in the space, but not too much where it's actually going to completely mute your spacebar into nothing. And I'm most likely going to have to in the future probably mod the backspace as well, just because there is a bit of tinging. It's not from the stabilizers, it's just of the way that it is. Now, let's do a sound test. Now, I'm going to also try adding the bottom foam back in as well and then see how that goes, because one thing I felt was, um, yeah, I mean, the total sound was pretty good, even with without the foam and just the car sound dampening. Honestly, this board without any foam as well sounds pretty good too, but let's try adding everything, putting all it back in, because this board has a lot of space for modifications, and then we'll do a sound test with all the mods.
Now we've done the sound test for the M1V5. Let me know down below in the comments what your guys' thoughts are, right? Like we did the full sound test of stock lubed and then modded. Now, in my opinion, I can see why. Like I had a person that reached out in the comments before, and like an old M1, I think it was a V3 video where they said that they didn't really like the sound of it and they felt like the Rosewood suggestion, they really hated it. I can see why with this board. The M1V3 was very different in terms of sound profile. It had a much more had more space available where you could get a really good sound profile from it with the Rosewood, and it wasn't going to be super quiet and dampened. This one's a very different built. It is a quick release, right? So it is a quick release board, and the sound profile is completely different, right? You're gonna get a little bit more dampened sound from this board. That's what I felt. It is a lot more dampened, and this one came with the botany switches, which of course is definitely a little bit more of a thockier, louder switch than the Rosewood. But of course, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a lot more sound tests with different Aqua switches for this board, just to be able to kind of give you guys a better idea. And maybe I'll do that in the shorts as well. So please catch those shorts as well to help you guys kind of figure out what kind of sound profile you want with this board. But gotta admit though, they did a great job in terms of the sound profile. In terms of the build though, I think the latches for putting this together for the quick release wasn't super great. What I felt was that the top latches were a little bit weak and would come off, and it was really hard to get in and fully closed off as well. So that is a little bit of a downside from my opinion. And in terms of the switches too, I really think that they should have done it with the fog switches. I would have loved to try this with the fog switches, which I do have, so I'm going to try them out with the fogs as well. But it would have been nice if they really kind of sent me one with a little bit different switches in the botany. But I do feel like it was a little bit dampened in total. Now, let's go into more of a closer look with the board and all of the things with the software and give you guys a little bit more information.
Now, going in to really take a deep look into this board. Now, as you can see, this board is a really nice 1980s themed board. Sorry that my camera wasn't fully focusing there. As you can see here, it is quite well done in terms of the design of the board itself. It is really cool. I do love these colors. It really kind of pops with like a really retro feel. And for those that really do like their retro themed boards, this is really nicely done. But the thing is, like the keycaps, one thing I felt when I first received them, after using them for a bit, it actually lessened a lot and is really nice now. But it had almost like the dusty feel, when you have too much dust on an item and then you touch it and then your hands feel a little bit like have that dust feel. It had that in the beginning. The case itself, as you can see, it does scratch really easily. And this is quite a big con for me. I think that that is a little bit of a disappointment that it does scratch very easily. And you can see the scratches very heavily. But to be fair, it is white. So of course, you will see them of course much stronger than others. But it is something that hopefully they can keep in mind. Now, this is one of the bad things that I've noticed is the switches kind of gets really loose on the plate, and yeah, as you can see here, that's where the switch is for the wireless. So you do have to take off the cap lock to do that. I think one of the things I personally do not like is when you have to do that, but keeping it on, I've noticed the battery life on this thing was really great, actually. I didn't have any issues with batteries. It was like lasting a week and it goes really, really long. It goes really great, actually. Now, I'm trying to show you guys some of them, like where the keycaps is actually stuck with the switches and the switches get pulled out. It is something that I've noticed with this board quite heavily. Specifically where the letters are, like QWER, ASD, like the lettering part, the switches do get really loose. To be fair, I think specifically it might be due to the botany switches, but when I tried it with other ones too, tried and putting in them, it also happened the same way. So keep that in mind for yourselves when you are trying to pull out the switches. They might just pop out when you're taking out the keycaps. Now, the whole case itself is really nice. It is well built with the thickness, but yeah, I mean, I gotta admit, I was quite surprised in terms of it wasn't done with like the CNC, like say other boards have. It is still really great though. Like they did a great job with this, and I do like what Monsgeek does, where it is an affordable DIY or pre-built that does have that quality and that thickness, and they really do a great job in making sure that like the boards will sound really great. And of course, I want to show you guys the backlighting test as well. All right, sorry, I hit my camera right there, but as you can see here, it's actually quite bright. I was quite impressed with the brightness, but as you can see here with the botany switches, the cons is the lighting is actually kind of off. Now, as you can see, you'll see on the bottom right that there's blue. This is actually supposed to be a blue lighting, but because the botany switches, how it does affect the lighting, it actually makes it kind of green. So something to keep in mind if you are someone that wants like an accurate backlighting color, keep that in mind, because as you can see, the arrows, there's a completely different switches that I want to show you guys, and it's blue while everything else is actually green due to the botany switches. But of course, let's go into the actual like website and take a look a little bit more close of this board. Now, as you can see here, it's right now sold out, or it's not available yet, but we have the M1V5, so it's going to go up to $130. So it's between $90 to $130, and you do get the 8K. You have the separate encoder, the VIA support, which is awesome. See, one thing I really love about Monsgeek and what they do is that they make sure that all their boards are going to be VIA compatible. Instead of going with just their basic skin software, they're actually allowing you to use VIA, and I love VIA more than just basic softwares because you do get a lot more option and a lot things you can actually do with it. On their website, they actually provide you the links for everything, right? For the JSON files or the source code, everything you need for this board is just available right there. Now, how do you download it? You just have to right click it and then just save link as, and it will save as a JSON file. So keep that in mind. That's how you save it for yourselves, and that's how you can actually access it. As you can see, it has loop stabilizers, gasket mounted. Super nice that they provide you extra stabilizers, which are screw-in, which is also really, really nice to use instead of sometimes plate mounted. Depending on the person, you might not like plate mounted stabilizers. They provide you a lot of foam, actually, a lot of thick foam. They did a great job in terms of making sure that this board is very dampened. So some people, they're not going to like that, right? You might not like a really dampened, foamy sounding board. Some people will. Some people like that creamy sounding, really quiet switches, like in terms of the board. I would say if you're not one, get the Aqua Piano switch. Piano switch is going to be much better for it because the piano switches actually allow for a little bit more of a higher and louder sound, even though this is going to be a bit dampened. I would also probably remove the bottom foam as well. And this is also another place you can go is just go to support, download, and you can also do the same thing here, which is right click and save as. So it actually presents to your website, but you can actually right click and save as. Now, you go into VIA, just go into the design section, press load, and you'll be able to load up the file for the Monsgeek M1. As you can see here, I was using the blue lighting, but because of the switches, it came out looking green. Now, this is what I love about the VIA support is it's super easy to customize, and you get a lot of customization available, which a lot of these softwares that a lot of companies are using doesn't have that availability to make these customizations. And this is something I really appreciate is that Monsgeek keeps doing this with using the VIA support. And of course, I got to use the keyboard inspector to show you guys the polling rate. And I did play games with this, and it gives you 1,000 polling rate, and it's more than enough. Honestly, like if you aren't going for high competitive play, this is more than enough for you to play your video games on your computer with your friends and still have fun and still do well. So, of course, what we cannot forget to do when looking at the 75% for Monsgeek is do a sound comparison with other 75% that I've tried on this channel. And that's so that you guys can kind of look at this board and compare it, right? Direct comparison, what sounds better, and which one would you prefer? So where would I put the Monsgeek M1V5? Specifically, this pre-built, right? The 1980s themed one. I would say I'm having a hard time saying that this is better than all the other boards out there, only due to the fact that, you know, the case still does scratch quite easily and the sound is quite dampened. I do like this one though, right? This is a really nice board. I do like it. I would take this over the Rainy 75. I would actually take this over the Blade. And at the end of the day, I think if you are someone that wants a dampened sounding board that's going to be creamy, look at the M1V5. If you're one that wants thocky, look at the Rainy or the Star 75.
I hope you guys enjoyed the video with the M1V5, and I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. I will have the links in the description for, you know, this board and everything. I'm going to play around with it quite a bit to see what I can do to make it sound better, especially for that one person that, you know, got this board and wasn't really happy with it, because at the end of the day, I want every viewer to be able to kind of get what they're looking for, and I really want to help with that. So if you ever leave a comment or questions, I will definitely get to it. I might be slow at responding sometimes, but I'll definitely make sure to get to that. So please make sure to like and subscribe, and of course, catch the other videos I got.